prefer to consider a person a visitor, and it has more to do with their implementation than it has to do with a right or wrong answer on the matter. It could just be something that you want to consider doing both visit and visitor, and look at the difference between those metrics at both the visit and visitor level. So on this slide, we've got SPG level. I think this is a really good one. So not only are they a member or not, but which level member they are. So someone who's VIP or Platinum, I assume Platinum's the best one, they probably stay a lot more, probably have the highest conversion rates. And then some of the lower levels may not have as high a conversion rate. But again, what they're setting you up for here is when they ask the question, what do people do off of the confirmation page? Look at each one of these customer levels because they're going to behave differently, very differently probably.
Jordan, this is Alex. If they redeem points towards a free hotel or something like that, is that kind of data something that would appear? Can you, I don't know, I haven't looked at the app. Can one redeem points through the app to book a room?
I would assume they could, and there's probably some way. By default, the metric of sales is reported in dollars, most likely in U.S. dollars, regardless of the currency. Adobe only allows for one currency at a time within a report suite. So I expect it to be in U.S. dollars, and then let's say you book a hotel in Japan, a Japanese individual books while in Japan and whatnot, it's there where you would expect them to book. Using their credit card, it would convert their local currency into U.S. dollars at the time of the transaction and store that. And then here at Southwest, we actually would store that as a $0 sale, and then we would store it into a proper EVAR the number of points they spent to buy that hotel. So you may be able to look at creating a segment or ask that question. That's probably a good question. What if someone books with points instead of dollars? How is that accounted for? Because just like you have average nightly rate, you could have the average number of points per night in a redemption as well.
This one's business objectives. Any comments?
Yeah, I think you've got the booking channel is by far, I mean, that's where all the money is. That's going to be something they're very interested in. How often you're accessing your account. So this return frequency, this concept of time between visits, I know it's something we talked about in class as well. But in mobile specifically, there's actually a report that tells you the number of days that have passed between app installs, and it looks much like the time spent on page report. So make sure you go look for that one under the mobile reporting because it'll tell you the average duration, and look at that by segment, you know, their preferred gold, standard, platinum, VIP. Look at all of that to say, okay, you know, people who are at this level return much more frequently on average than customers who don't. But also use some smarts like, oh, people who stay more, open the app more. Okay, well, is that important? Unless you have other context like people who are in the platinum level open the app more on property, or do they open it more off property? Things like that. Definitely when you're thinking about what you're going to present, there's lots of things. There is no lack of things to present, none. You could throw up every single graph you're going to look at. Remember that what they want is what's wrong, what's broken, what's fixed, what's improved, and what's going right, as well as those general customer behaviors And the more that you can lend towards some of those first things, what's wrong, what's broken, or confirm that everything's going right, the better off you're going to be, because everyone else is going to be focused on there were this many people on the confirmation page, and from the confirmation page they went to here. So I think you've got a really good opportunity to think about through some of those other segments, and that key insight of trending everything you're going to report by at least by month, if not by day or week, and understanding what the day of week behavior is for people to use the app. Do Platinum members always open the app on Saturdays, for example? You know, those kinds of things I think would be very helpful. And then that on-site when you've got the keyless entry and all that jazz. Bookings, they're basically telling you what they want to see here. They want to see the number of bookings, the conversion rate. There's multiple ways to do conversion rate. So I think you're fine if you pick one as long as you define it. So also on every slide, any metric you report, show them the math of how you got to that metric. So if you're using bookings over visits, that's fine. Just tell them that's what you're doing. At Southwest, we would actually do bookings over what we call select flight visits, which is what they would call the property, the hotel property page, before you look at the individual rates. So there's multiple ways you can do it. I don't think they're going to penalize you for any of it, but the more ways you look at it, some discrepancies you may find within there.
Sorry, let me move this back. One thing I wanted to show here, if you see on the screenshot, it talks about the free. So yeah, you probably can redeem the star points there by, I would think, by tapping on that button there, 12,000 star points.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that there's an EVAR or a prop that stores the number of points that they spent to buy. Now there may also be some quotes, like this stay was quoted at 1,200 or 12,000 points. They may not buy it, so be careful and make sure you could look at that by saying pull only visits that included the confirmation page, and make sure that that number matches the number of points. That would then tell you that they had to buy in order to have those points stored. They're actually making this way more complicated by the fact that they're doing it in a mobile app, because if it was on the desktop, you could actually go to the page and look at the page, and that's something that I think, Alex, maybe you and I could definitely take back to them as well, depending on what documentation SPG gives, is that lack of ability to what they call debug the page, so that you don't know what the page name is and whatnot. Hopefully they'll provide all of that, but for all the students on the call, I think they owe that to you, and you should definitely be asking rather than assuming. There's going to be teams that assume and don't ask, and it's going to bite some of them in the rear.
So let me ask the teams, did you guys get any kind of documentation like that?
With the page names?
Yeah, with page names in it?
Yeah, we got for the older version of the app.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the older version, and there is a page name section, and it says which page it is one.
Okay, and does it seem to cover at least 40, 50 pages?
Yes, it's covered like 80 pages, I think.
Okay.
There's a PDF
okay, great.
that Brent sent to us.
And does it only have the page name, or does it also have other variables that are stored on that page?
Let me see. They have app ID and OS version, device name, carrier name, and page name.
Okay, and does it show, like on the confirmation page, does it show like dollars and some other things on the